Recording. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Here we are again, like every week. It's getting like a routine, and it's a routine I very much like to have here Hermann Jónsson with me. Hi, Hermann.
Hi, Patrik.
How are you doing today?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. So what we're going to be discussing today is our third topic of the list we did that's going to go on until at least another 12 or 13 weeks, and hopefully even more, since I see that more and more people are liking to see the discussions we have here together. And the topic of today is higher education, the confusion of young adults, why most teenagers grow adults into a job they dislike. And from this topic, we definitely going to be talking about true values. We had already a little bit of a discussion, and Hermann and I together, and we'd like to involve people and viewers on the topic as well. So I give you immediately the word, Hermann. So what you would tell me about higher education and why so many adults, and not only young adults, but also we see with the older adults that they get into a job that they really much dislike, they don't like at all, and statistics are very clear on this subject. Why is that happening? So what do you think about it?
Yeah, and my thoughts are actually what you just said before. I think one of the biggest problem is the values. The values, and we are not teaching our children the right values. And I'm talking about both us as parents, but also the school system.
Okay.
And I think way too many, at least in my experience and people that I have been talking to, way too many, their values are always about the material things. They're about money and all of those things that they think that will maybe make them happy. Mm-hmm. So they are pursuing a career in something that they're not burning for. They're not. This is not their interest. This is not what they like. But this is what they know that they will get more money, more pay, and material things.
The so-called success.
This exactly the so-called success. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this is in our society, in the world, this is a global problem, because the economy is controlling everything, and we are always saying to our children, that indirectly and directly, we are always sending them the message: you have to make a lot of money, when you grow up, to be happy. Mm-hmm. And I think this is a problem that we have, and the school system, which we have talked about many times before. The school system is always educating our children to become something. You finish this study and then you're a dentist, or then you're a lawyer, or whatever you are. We're always training them up for a job, but we are forgetting to train them up to be a human being, a member of the society, be a person that thinks about yourself. What are your values? What is it that you would like to do? Instead of just training you to be this, because this will give you a lot of money. Yeah. And so I think this is the problem, that we are forgetting this side of our education.
Yeah, I perfectly agree. And when you were talking, it just comes in my mind the very, very, very common question that I had, and I heard so many times also, asked to myself when I was a small child, like, what do you want to become when you are adult? Like, you have to become something, or you have to become someone. In fact, we are already, complete, and we're already someone. So we don't have to become anything. We have just to grow into what we already are. And as you said, I think education, so both parents, the side of parents and the side of educators, let's say, if you want to label, or the school system, we are so much addressing all the things of notions and academics for kids, mm-hmm. and giving them this idea that we have to become someone, like once you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be someone. Once you're going to be whatever job, you're going to be someone. And now you're no one. So that's really something that we have definitely to shift in society, and to start really addressing and knowing how to shift for kids in order to make them believe that they are already someone, and not that they have to become anything. So exactly. How do you think we can face this subject with our kids, with I'm talking about people are watching, with our own children, with our kids in the classroom, for example, how we can step back and see this problem, because I think many people hearing and watching and facing this subject, they understand perfectly the problem, but society is pushing us towards this kind of, I don't know how to say, it's pushing us in the corner to see things like we have to become that in order to have money, in order to be successful and be happy. So how can we a little bit shift this paradigm and change things?
And I think the only way to do it is to start with ourselves. Because when we're talking about values, I think for me, I think that one of the most important things for parents to do is to write down their values. What is it that's important for you? Which values would you like to have and your kids to adopt? So I think we have to start with ourselves. And because if we take the question, how do children learn values? They learn it by watching us, to see how we act in the world with what is important to us. So if our values if the most important thing to me is to get a big house and a big car, and the only thing that matters is I just gotta work to get a lot of money to buy big things and beautiful things, then I'm teaching that to my children. So we have to start with ourselves, because it's not easy to go in and just snap your fingers and change the school system. But we can start by changing ourselves, and by changing ourselves, we are starting to change the next generation, which is our children. So to start by saying stop, if you are one of those persons that are consumed by the materialistic society, you have to be able to say stop. Do you need all of those things? Do you need everything? And what is important in your life? Your family, your children, love, happiness, with everything that comes with being together as people, because the society is the people, and it's not the thing that we own, but it is our connection together. Show that to your children. Show them that the most important thing that you can have in your life is the people around you that love you and that you love, your children, your wife, your husband, all of those things, those things. And another thing that I think we need to start to addressing with our children, and a value that we need to be working towards, is because everybody needs to define their own values. But we need to start set more values in that has to do something with society, because we are growing apart. Today we're growing too much apart. We need to start thinking about the value of society. We need to start thinking about, for example, in school, you have to think about, when you're thinking about your children in the school, you think about your children's well-being in school. You have to start thinking, if my children is to have a nice life and feel good in school, other kids will have to do that as well. So other kids' well-being should be as important to you as your own kids' well-being in the school. Then you're showing the kids, this is society, and this is what it means to be in a society. We have to care about each other, about the welfare of each other. This is really, really important, because then we are showing the kids those values are more important than what we are showing them today with all this materialistic thing, and we have to work and all of these jobs and everything.
Absolutely.
Because we know it. Money doesn't make you happy.
Absolutely, and I perfectly agree. And what I also think is very important, that the point you touched, is society. So often we use this word society like it's something external. So every single day, whatever you talk about with people, you would have a discussion where at least one time is mentioned society, like something external that is pushing you to do this, to do that, to have to feel these kind of fake values that we see, etc. And we all the time, as much as for emotion it is so that we say, he made me feel this, he made me feel that, and it's not true, because we control our emotions if we are aware about it. As same thing is with society. So often people are referring to society like something that, I'm like this, but society is like that. Society is pushing me to see these values. Society is pushing you to want to have money. Society. So, we are part of the society, and that's something very important that you said that resonates perfectly with me. And I very often say to other people, because we often say, society is like this. okay, but what are you? Aren't you part of the society? So we have to really acknowledge that and start from the point that we are part of the society. So as small as we can be in this society, we have to contribute and we have to bring forth our own values and then think about the rest and start, like you were saying at the beginning, how we teach values starting from ourselves. So I like very much the idea you had of writing down the values, for example, and I think should be or could be something that we suggest to the public to do. I don't know if probably you make it in your courses with adults, I suppose.
Yes.
So, and how you usually do? So what would you suggest to the people watching? So just to write down a list of values?
I call it a vision of myself. I write down values and I start to look at myself and I start to look at, who am I and what is it that I'm proud of? Which values have I adopted that I'm proud of? And I write those down. And then comes the difficult part. That's when you look at yourself with a little bit critical eyes and you see which values haven't I adopted, which I would love to adopt, and you start to write those down. And when you start to write all of this down, you start to get a vision of a person that you would like to be. And then the next step is you start to work towards becoming this person. And all of this, you're doing it for yourself, but most of all, you're doing it for your children. Because you are creating the person that you want to be the best role model for your children by writing down those values and start just living, to be this person. That's what you want to do, because when children watch you and see what you do, like I said before, that's the way they learn values. That's the way they do it. So you have to start looking, and don't just look at the things that you do well. You have to start to look at things that I would like to be better at this. I would like to be more this kind of person and adopt those values. So
absolutely.
Write it down and start this. Because we can talk about if we want to change society, change things. Let's say that we are really unhappy with our government. We think there's corruption and I don't know what. We can go and protest, and we stand down and we protest. And at the end of the day, the government resigns and we get a new government, but nothing changes. Because you can change people, but if you don't change the mentality, the values of the people, nothing's going to change. Sure. So how do we change society? We start at home. You start changing at home. You start changing yourself, and you start changing your children and those values that they want to adopt. That's the most effective way to change your society. If you don't like the society you live in, start with yourself.
I agree. Yeah. So just to recap, because I think it was a quite short session, but very powerful, what we said so far. And I wouldn't go much farther because I would like also people to eventually intervene and comment, etc. But so to recap, the exercise you are suggesting is to write down all the values that you think they are important, maybe divided, as far as I understood, in two. So the values that you are already kind of implementing into your life, and those other values that you also think they're positive, but you're still not implementing or not as good as you could. Yeah. And then watch with a very critic eye and write down what I could even improve and what I should do to have all these values into my everyday life, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. It's very, very, I think, quite simple exercise, explains so, but I think it's very powerful, and it takes quite a good and deep thinking, and gonna be helping everyone to, to dig a little bit into this concept of true values and society and what I can really do as individual into the society of nowadays. Yeah, I like it very much. So I don't know if you want to add anything. I think it was very, very, brief, but very powerful, very straightforward to the point. I like that very much. And I hope people also like. If you want to add anything, Hermann?
Yeah, the only thing I would maybe like to add is I think one of the beauty of this is that you're always working towards getting a better person yourself. You're working with yourself. People always think that when you're raising children, you have to be, looking at children. How can I change the children? The most effective way is to change yourself. That's the most effective way. And don't forget when you're writing those values, because I'm saying how you wrote these values, don't forget that you have to look at values from today's society. Things have changed. And I'm talking about like when I was growing up, there were values that I didn't maybe need as much as my children need today, because I didn't have the internet. My children have the internet, for example. So the times have changed. You have to, think about that when you're looking at yourself with the critical eyes, which values would I like to adapt today that I didn't adapt when I was a child.
Mm-hmm.
Think about
Like
that.
something that comes in my mind, for example, is critical thinking. Like back in the past, we didn't have that amount of information, like we spoke already last week about. Today, probably something that I wouldn't put as a first thing, critical thinking, but thinking in the perspective of devices and internet, etc., is definitely a value that you want to add onto that list. Yeah. And I would add also something, I don't know if you teach it, I don't know if in this way or another, those values, those lists that you make, or that list that you make, watch it. I would suggest every morning when you wake up. What do you suggest usually?
About the list of the values.
The list, I mean, I make this list and I put down all the values, and I write down what I can improve and how I can improve for each to reach the best of each value. And I would say that it's the exercise is not finishing there, but you need to read that list every single day, right?
Yeah, it's an ongoing process, and things change. You change, and while you change, there may be some new things that you discover about yourself, and your children grow and change, and things change. So this list must be ongoing. It's never ending. It's ongoing.
And also for the fact that we are not able, unfortunately, to change from one day to the other would be great, but we are not so. And we're quite much wired to the habits we have. So once I make that list and I read it aloud, maybe to myself every single morning, I can kind of check in and maybe even check out in the evening and see where I am, if I did anything better than yesterday. And so that's the way where I see that I've been improving and actually working on that list day after day.
Exactly, and if you read it every day, it's fresh in your mind through all the day, and that really helps you, you focus on your goals.
All right, perfect. I like it very much, and I'm looking forward for the course that you're still translating, right?
Yeah.
So I think I'm not the only one looking forward. So I'm really curious about this exercise and many others that you're gonna come up with in the course. So I thank you very much, Hermann, again. And it was beautiful talking to you. Just quickly for the people watching, next week topic gonna be homeworks, good or bad, the damaging pressure school thing they need to put on students. And this is also a topic that I think many of us parents are very, very, very interested, and hopefully also teachers. So I'm looking forward to talking to you again next week, and I wish you a very pleasant week. Thank you, Hermann.
Thanks. The same to you.
Thank you.